What's good, Taco? So the people wrote in. We got a lot of questions coming up, and there's a lot of things going on. So let's just get right to it.
Yeah.
First question: the people wanted to know, did you have? Well, if they read the book, they'd know. But did you have any dealings with Rayful, and what was that about?
Yeah, I dealt with Ray back in like 1987. You know, that was the time. A friend of mine introduced me to him at the Metro Club on Bladensburg Road in Northeast. You know, that's a place that Montana frequently, attend, you know what I'm saying, on outside. But I was introduced to him. You know, I spoke to him. He told me come over one day so that I could do my thing. And I only met up with him like a total of 3 times, but we were not like friends. We didn't hang out. You know, just at the time, before I knew what happened, it was just a mutual respect for the brother. You know what I'm saying? But there were some things, like on my trips that I noticed that I became uncomfortable with. So at the time, like one of the first things, and I'm not gonna get into people's names, but just giving you examples. One of the times I went over there, as I passed the money, I gave it to one of his little runners, and they would take me around the side so I can get what I needed to get. But it was a time I came out, that I'm saying, and it didn't scare me or make me think that he was hot. The bag I gave him that had the money in it, I saw him give it to a high official, which was the police chief. And I'm not gonna get in the name, although he's deceased. So that didn't scare me away from dealing with Ray. But then a second time I went over there, that's why I said it was a total of 2 to 3 times, The second time I went, which was, I'll say possibly the last, is I went over there and handled business again, and I saw that Ray was out there shooting dice with some of his little OGs. They were shooting dice, and one of the points was rolled. And so a thing for the youth got to realize when you're playing dice, late gates and things of that nature happen, and so people gonna get frustrated, and it could turn to violence. So this particular time, I'm not gonna say his name. If you were there, you know. Ray was on the dice, and he rolled his point, and then one of his homies, one of his hitters was like, nah, I gated that. And Ray said, nah, that gate was late. And then so he said, Ray, if you touch that money, I'm gonna knock you out. So me, I was surprised because by him being the boss, and this is one of his little runners and his hitters, that he was speaking to him in that form. You know what I'm saying? So I took that as disrespect, but I just watched, I didn't say nothing, I just, watched. And then when Ray reached for the money, I saw him bop, 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 hit him up, and I was like, nah, I can't fuck with him no more. So that was the ending of it with me and the Rayful saga, because also if I would have continued doing business with him, I would have wound up in prison.
Yeah, and when he was in prison, did he reach out to you?
Yeah, he reached out to me at my house. I was living out in Montgomery County, out close to Olney. And little Sean was there. We had I had a 2-bedroom on the basement level, and he called on the phone, which I thought was kind of suspicious, and me, I've always told people, don't talk to people in the jail about illegal activities, because it tells you in the phone call that all calls are being recorded and monitored, so it gives you that. But Sean was so excited that it was Rayful, he brought me the phone. He said, Ray want to speak to you. So I spoke to Ray, and Ray was like, hey, Doc, what's up, man? I hear you doing your thing out there. And I was like, nah, Ray, I ain't doing nothing out here. I said, man, I'm doing music. Man, I'm in the music business. I ain't doing it. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, man, I can dump 100 of them things on you, man. All you got to do is, and I was like, no, I don't want to be involved with it. I'm in the music right now. I don't sell nothing. All I do is live life. So that's how I kind of went when he contacted me from prison to talk through Sean to try to engage me into getting into it, which everybody who eventually got involved in it went to jail. That's why I said we got to be intelligent out here and stop just trying to get money and be ignorant.
Yeah, speaking of that, when you quit, did you quit gradually or did you quit cold turkey when you knew that Fizz was watching it and also everybody started getting just hot with it?
Yeah, what I'm saying in terms of Ray, I didn't stop at that time because, like I said, when I went the second time and I saw one of his hitters, like knock him out, it really didn't affect me because I was up Montana, so where Ray was at and where I was at is totally different. But me, when I actually quit and retired in '92, I just went cold turkey because, I was through with the life because, I saw that it was destroying the community.
Yeah. And so after that, you transitioned into music and you had Montana Records. So what stopped the rise in Montana Records and also DC artists getting on from your perspective?
We didn't cooperate with each other. In DC, the politics, it's a lot of envy and jealousy. So, we're just not working together. So that was one of the biggest reasons because as you could see, most states where other people were, the people within their community helped support it, their projects. But in DC, we didn't have a lot of support. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't get into the industry today due to all of the gang cultures and things that infiltrated, and it probably was in there in the beginning, I just wasn't paying attention to it, but today it's more heavily. So to give you an example, like California, places would make people check in. DC would have made them check in. We would have checked in everybody. I don't care what state you're from. I mean, and it's known, so I'm glad we didn't get into it because if you'd have came to our town, then we would probably be in the extortion and the robbery and a lot of the murders to artists. And that's not the real reason to get into the business, is to get in there to have success, to feed your family. So I'm glad that we didn't get in it, and that's what I see was one of the main obstacles was the support and then the lack of the music industry, which is the companies up in New York. There was a bias against DC because we had our own cultural music, which is go-go. So they were more so like they didn't understand it, or they had a little hatred against it, I guess, because a lot of DC artists or New York artists, when they came to town or wherever they came from, it didn't matter. DC people wasn't really receptacle to them because we had our own style and our own culture, within our own music.
Yeah, from that, would you say the New York labels started trying to almost, I guess in a sense, boycott DC?
They did, okay. It's the song, They Reminisce Over You, and so many during the trade in the underground world, when that was going on, so many New Yorkers were losing their lives down in DC, so they became very biased. And a lot of their friends, if you know anything about New Yorkers, a lot of their friends are tied to the labels and in the industry. So yeah, they were very biased because I went to the labels and I wanted to share our music and CDs with them, but before it was ever played, they would always say, if that's that go-go, we don't want to hear it. And so, I took that as like them being biased or discriminating on us. So, that's how that really went.
Yeah, and so with that, at the time, your first artist was P.O.P., correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So shifting gears, another question that came through was something that's going on in the news this week.
Okay.
Our brothers from Cali
have
found themselves in some legal trouble.
Right.
What is your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't want to see no one in jail, but as I've always said, people have to go. And to me, they were older guys, and they should have been more of examples for the community, because you can't be halfway in and halfway out. You have to be all the way in or all the way out. And so I see as though they were still trying to be in and out, and they should have matured as far as men. You know, a lot of the modern men and women, you know, they're very disrespectful and they haven't matured mentally. So the things that are alleged against them, because I wasn't there, but I'm saying the paperwork is out and people are discussing it. You know, it's very disgusting, because when you are a person in that position and people are looking up to you to bring results and things within the community as far as helping out the youth, that was horrible. And a lot of times, a lot of people under the guidelines know that you'll get funding through these grants for the youth, but the youth always suffer in the middle of that, because the greed and the envy and jealousy amongst people, you know, to do things with the money and not put it back within the community.
Yeah, were you shocked to see the names that were attached to it?
Oh, yeah, and to be honest, you know, by me being retired, you know what I'm saying, I don't really pay too much attention to those names. You know, they're irrelevant to me, because during the time I was in it, they wasn't in it and they wasn't doing anything. But yeah, some of the celebrities and star names that, you know, are alleged in the complaint, you know, it's horrible. You know, the extortion that they were doing to them, even if it's true, you know, the weed dispensaries, and also, you know, it was very horrible to hear brothers losing their lives, you know, over this, when if you're the big homie, so-called, you're supposed to be able to put things in check and make sure that your homies live a successful life, something that they could sit back and be proud of later on in their lives. And to talk about that a little more, that I'm disappointed with the black men, you know, which we only represent 13% of the population, but we represent 7% of it. So we have to be more educated as far as what we need to do, because the youth are looking at you. So when you're doing this and you're bragging about it, you know, of course they're gonna wanna go and do it because it's easy, you know, and that's the thing that, you know, so I don't really pay too much attention to that, because gang cultures do not work in DC. They have never worked here. They might have had them, Gangster Chronicles, Hill Boys, probably a few of them, but eventually they were all eradicated. So that's why the gang culture is not a DC thing. You know, that's strictly a Cali. That's why I say, you know, in my book, I went out there to Cali. I got love, I got plenty of people out there at Cali, you know, on skating rings and things that when I was in it, we had a business. But I just, you know, I'm really disappointed in brothers as men, because you're taking the money and doing the wrong things with it, then you're extorting our people, you know, and you're not doing nothing positive for the community if you're the big homie.
Respect. That leads to another question, just to set the record straight, because there were a few people from out of town talking about DC Bloods and Crips, but me personally, I've never seen any. Have you ever seen any?
Nah, that's why I said people want to attach us to that, but one thing, you know, I love DC for, and that's that we're very independent of all of that stuff, you know, because one person, I mean, there's too many savages in DC. One person will go and eradicate a whole gang. So if it was, I don't know about it. You know, I've never heard about it. I go over to Montana, Brentwood, over Saratoga, Atlanta. No, so from what I'm saying, I was over on the south side, you know, so is it a person or so? Maybe, but it's not like the gang culture is the influence in DC. It's only the street culture is the influence in DC.
Yeah. That leads to another question that came through. So back in the day, who was Montana real cool with back in the day?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna use me as the representative of Montana, which is the big homie, you know, I was cool with everybody. But we did have some issues with certain hoods. It wasn't me in particular, but it might have been, you know, one of the little homies who probably ran over there, robbed somebody from their hood, and they knew Montana was a safe haven, because that's what a lot of the homies would do. They'd go out and rob people, do whatever they were going to do, and they would come back to Montana because it was very protected. You know, we kept that thing tight like a virgin.
Yep. Okay.
What's up, YouTube family? It's your boy, Taco Montana, back in the building once again. I want all y'all to go out there and pick up a copy of the Taco Montana Clandestine Hustler by shopping Amazon. And to all the new people that's seeing this, hey, subscribe to Taco Montana TV. You heard? And also pick up this gig, this merch here at Taco Montana TV.